Canadian employers wanting to hire a foreign national must oftentimes apply for what's called an LMIA, a labor market impact assessment. All this is you, the employer, saying to the Canadian immigration authorities, you know what, we've not been able to find a Canadian citizen or permanent resident to do the job that we're wanting to hire this foreign national for, so please give us the go-ahead to hire a foreign national. That's what an LMIA application really is. So the LMIA application is really the responsibility of the employer, not the employee, because the employee really doesn't come into the picture until the employer has received what's called a positive LMIA, which is an approved LMIA. The approved LMIA is then going to be used in support of the employee's work permit application. The LMIA application process varies depending on the category of workers you're applying for. There are some LMIAs that are targeted at very specific tech and engineering type jobs, which can be processed in a very short space of time. And then there are the general LMIAs, which typically can take a much longer duration. The general or the standard LMIA requires the employer to first advertise the position locally in Canada, typically on at least 3 different online job boards. And that job advertisement typically has to be posted for at least 1 month, at least 4 weeks, right? And the job advertisement must meet certain requirements. It must state what the salary is. It must state where the the work location is. It must outline the duties to be performed. It must indicate how applicants can apply. And the idea behind this is that the authorities want to ensure that any suitably qualified Canadian permanent resident or Canadian citizen out there should be given the opportunity first to apply for this job, and only after the employer has been unsuccessful in finding Canadians for the job can the employer then choose to offer this job to a foreign national. So that's the idea behind the LMIA, and because of that there is this recruitment requirement, right? So that's a requirement that an employer needs to meet as part of the LMIA application. Another requirement is that the employer needs to show that they have what's called business legitimacy. That means the employer must show that they are a properly registered business in Canada, that they're properly operating in Canada, 1, and 2, the employer needs to know that they have the financial means, or rather the immigration authorities need to know that the employer has the financial means to take care of any employees they'll be hiring inside Canada. And so there are specific documentary requirements around that an employer will need to meet in order to show that they've met the business legitimacy requirement. There are other requirements depending on the category of LMIA that an employer would be applying under. There's what is called the high wage LMIA for workers whose salary is going to be at or above the provincial or territorial median wage. And then there is what's called the low wage LMIA for those workers whose income is going to be below that of the provincial or territorial median wage. So the requirements may vary somewhat depending on which of those subcategories the application fits under. But the bottom line is that ultimately the employer needs to satisfy the Canadian immigration authorities that they have not been able to find a suitably qualified Canadian or Canadian citizen or Canadian permanent resident to do the job. And therefore, because they have this pressing job that they need to get done, they have to look outside of Canada for people to do that. And so employers who are in the farming sector, for instance, who need farm workers, for instance, they would be going the LMIA route. you know, and there are any other employers whose job offerings do not fit into one of the exemptions, you know, they too would typically be going the LMIA route and would be obligated to show that they've made effort, a reasonable effort to hire, to recruit Canadians for the job, to show that their business is legitimate, to show that they're going to be meeting whatever the provincial or territorial salary requirements are, and so on and so forth. So that, in a nutshell, is what the LMIA is. And again, the LMIA is the responsibility of the employer, and that includes the costs associated with an LMIA application. So there's a government fee of typically of $1,000 per application, and there may be legal fees if this is being done by an attorney, and those costs must be borne by the employer. There's a duty on the employer to bear those costs and not to push them onto the employee. And so that is also going to be important for you as an employer to bear in mind. All right, so I hope you found value from this video. As always, remember to like our videos so others will see more videos like this. Subscribe to our channel so you'll be notified when next we publish other videos, and check us out on our website at go.gooselaw.com. Thanks. See you again.